Hello. This is Antya from Byte Shuffle. Thank you for always watching my videos. This is a video where we have converted the audio of a previously released video into English. The meta game section is somewhat different from the current one, but the deck building concept remains mostly unchanged. First off, the conclusion. The deck list I am currently using is as follows. I will explain in order, step by step. The deck name, ANT, is derived from the initials of Ad Nauseam and Tendrils of Agony, a legacy format combo deck that utilizes the Storm keyword ability introduced in the Scourge block. Let's take a quick look at how the deck operates. The combo involves using mana acceleration cards like Dark Ritual and Lion's Eye Diamond, LED, to increase the available mana. Aiming to increase the mana by at least 7 is one guideline. Once the mana has been expanded, use tutors to search for combo pieces. The primary targets for searching are typically ignition points like Ad Nauseam or Past in Flames. After casting the ignition point, accumulate a storm count of 9 or more and win by depleting 20 points of life with Tendrils of Agony. The combo routes can be broadly classified into 3 patterns. Let's start with explaining Route 1. First, accelerate the mana to 7 or more using Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, and Lion's Eye Diamond, LED. Use tutor cards to search for Ad Nauseam. A significant characteristic of the Ad Nauseam route is that it involves luck due to the consumption of life, but it allows for accumulating storm count without going through the graveyard. Once the combo starts, accumulate storm count up to 9. Then, deplete 20 points of life with Tendrils of Agony. Next, let's discuss Route 2. First, accelerate the mana to 7 or more using mana acceleration tools such as Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, and Lion's Eye Diamond, LED. This step is the same as previously mentioned. Once the mana is expanded, use tutor cards to search for Past in Flames. A distinctive feature of the Past in Flames route is that it involves going through the graveyard, but it allows for accumulating storm count without relying on luck. Once the combo starts, accumulate storm count up to 9. Then, deplete 20 points of life with Tendrils of Agony to secure the victory. Now on to Route 3. First, accelerate mana using tools like Dark Ritual, Lotus Petal, and Lion's Eye Diamond, LED. This step is the same as before, but depending on your hand, it's possible to achieve victory without reaching 7 mana. This route allows for accumulating storm count up to 9 and achieving victory without consuming life, going through the graveyard, or using tutors. This approach requires controlling the flow of the game, so, a significant disadvantage is that the complexity of play becomes considerably higher. To be specific about how to execute this. You effectively utilize your draw sources such as Brainstorm and Ponder, and skillfully navigate through the opponent's counters to accumulate storm count up to 9. Then, deplete 20 points of life with Tendrils of Agony to secure the victory. The advantage of this route is that it allows for storm accumulation even if the graveyard is locked, and it becomes highly resistant to the opponent's hard counters. Now that we've confirmed the basic movements of the deck, let's move on to check the deck composition next. The deck composition can be broadly categorized as follows: combo pieces such as Tendrils of Agony, Past in Flames, and Ad Nauseam, tutor cards like Infernal Tutor, mana acceleration cards such as Dark Ritual and Lion's Eye Diamond, disruption cards like Veil of Summer, Thoughtseize, and Duress, and draw sources such as Brainstorm and Ponder. Before diving into discussions about specific cards, I'd like to take a moment to examine the current metagame. In response to the rise of Beanstalk control, the once dominant Delver decks have decreased in number. The increase of fast combo decks, including Reanimator, which were previously suppressed by Delver decks. It's also believed that the current situation includes a significant number of Chalice decks, which are said to have an advantage against control decks. Both fast combo and Chalice decks become challenging matchups for ANT. To win against these decks, the environment demands a faster deck speed than the traditional builds. Having reviewed the current metagame, next, we will examine the number of cards chosen and the reasons for their selection. Regarding cards that interact with the graveyard, Pero Dice Lost, Gia's Will, and Past in Flames are candidates to consider. First, regarding Pero Dice Lost, lands and 0-mana cards can be infinitely recouped, regardless of the dice roll. If the dice roll is sufficiently high, it effectively becomes a Yawgmoth's Will, for instance, that cost mana. The disadvantage is its stringent color requirement. being a green double symbol. For those who may not know how to use it, I will introduce how to use it at the very end of the video. I'll omit it from the main content to avoid a significant digression. Next, regarding Gia's Will, it serves as a suspended version of Yawgmoth's Will. Later, I'll explain how, when combined with Beseech the Mirror, it effectively transforms into Yawgmoth's Will. The disadvantage is that it does nothing when it comes into your hand. Finally, regarding Past in Flames, which can arguably be considered an essential card for A&T. The greatest advantage of this card is its ability to be cast twice, both from the hand and then from the graveyard via flashback. Because it's resilient against opponents' hard counters, it becomes a valuable card when executing graveyard-based combos. For graveyard-based combo pieces, we will include one each of the closely matched Past in Flames and Gia's Will. Next, let's discuss the tutor cards that form the core of the deck. As for tutor cards, Infernal Tutor stands out as exceptionally powerful. However, 4 copies are not enough, so we need to look for a secondary tutor card. While there are others, I plan to focus on explaining the 3 types that have been frequently adopted recently. First, let's discuss Burning Wish. The advantage of this card is that in the first game, it allows you to search for sideboard cards like Silver Bullets and Hate Bears that you might otherwise have to concede to. The disadvantages include not being able to cast it with flashback when using Past in Flames, and it puts pressure on your sideboard space. Additionally, compared to the past, the current A&T decks have a harder time generating red mana from their lands, leading to a less stable mana base. Next, regarding Wishclaw Talisman, the advantage of this card is that it can be set in advance, allowing you to ignore disruptive cards like Hand Disruption from your opponent. A disadvantage is that, although it can be set in advance, it may become a target for cards in the opponent's hand that would otherwise be dead. If used immediately, it incurs a mana cost compared to Infernal Tutor, and like Burning Wish, it cannot be cast with flashback when using Past in Flames. Regarding Beseech the Mirror, its advantage is that it requires less mana for the combo compared to other tutors, resulting in the highest speed. A disadvantage is that, in lieu of mana cost, it requires a permanent as an additional cost. Compared to the traditional A&T configuration, it necessitates reconsidering the number of artifacts included in the deck. Additionally, spells costing 5 mana or more become difficult to use. In matches that turn into a race for combo speed, it's usually more common to take the route using Ad Nauseam, making this a significant disadvantage. Unfortunately, in terms of the metagame, speed appears to be of the utmost importance, so this time, we'll be including Beseech the Mirror in our deck. For the tutor suite, about 6 cards should suffice, and since we want to focus on speed this time, we'll include 2 copies of Beseech the Mirror. The core of the deck has been decided. Next, we'll take a look at the mana acceleration cards. As candidates, we have Lion's Eye Diamond, Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Reign of Filth, and Crone Mox. From Lion's Eye Diamond to Dark Ritual, these are considered fixed slots. From Cabal Ritual to Crone Mox, these are considered flexible slots. The advantage of Cabal Ritual is that, once you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, achieving Threshold, it provides a level of mana acceleration on par with Lion's Eye Diamond. It can generate the most mana. However, as a downside, it is susceptible to the opponent's graveyard hate cards, so after sideboarding, it becomes a candidate for siding out depending on the opponent. Also, in the early turns, it becomes akin to casting a Lotus Petal, which requires mana to cast. The advantage of Reign of Filth is that if you have 3 or more lands in play, you can achieve an effect greater than that of Dark Ritual. Therefore, it functions as the 5th Dark Ritual. Additionally, it can be used to fill the graveyard, making it synergize well with Cabal Ritual, since it only costs 1 mana. It's also not bad as a starter for combos. The downside is that it's weaker in the early turns since its effectiveness relies on having a certain number of lands in play. The advantage of Crone Mox is that, although it results in a loss of hand advantage, it offers the fastest speed among the flexible slots. Moreover, it becomes a very reliable card when executing a combo using the Ad Nauseam route. As a disadvantage, it becomes a weaker card when facing fair decks. In a fair environment, it becomes a card you would want to minimize the number of copies included to the greatest extent possible. Given the current metagame, there's a need to increase the deck's overall speed, so we're making room for Crone Mox, even if it's a bit forced. With this, the mana acceleration slots in the deck have been decided. Next, we'll look at the disruption cards. The candidates for this include well-known cards such as Veil of Summer, Thoughtseize, and Duress. First, let's discuss Thoughtseize. Though it appears powerful at first glance, for an ANT deck, the 2-point life loss is a very harsh drawback. However, it can also prevent sudden losses due to hate bears on the second turn. This time, we are including only the minimum of 2 copies. Next is Duress, which is like Thoughtseize without the life loss. The downside is that, in exchange for no life loss, it cannot remove hate bears. However, for an ANT deck, it often acts as a superior option to Thoughtseize in most cases. Next is Veil of Summer. Considering that most cards targeted by discard spells are often counterspells, and against non-blue decks, ANT tends to have an advantage, so Veil of Summer becomes akin to a discard spell with the bonus of a cantrip. Additionally, it offers protection from damage coming from sources like Orcish Bowmasters. And it can also protect your cards from destruction effects, targeting permanents that include black. Including too many disruption cards can slow down the combo speed. Typically, about 8 disruption cards are included in the main board. This time, we've selected 8 cards based on their strength. The disruption card slots in the deck have been decided. Next, we'll look at the draw sources. As candidates, we have cards such as Brainstorm, Ponder, and Preordain. Since Orcish Bowmasters was printed, it has become possible to penalize the opponent's draws. The honest truth is that we want to include as many copies as possible of draw sources to stabilize the combo. However, landing on the second turn reduces the number of castable cards compared to before. This time, we have included draw sources in the deck in order of strength. For this reason, Preordain has not been included. If Orcish Bowmasters were to decrease in the meta, I believe it would be reasonable to increase the number of draw sources. As many of you may know, Veil of Summer allows you to prevent damage from Orcish Bowmasters. Executing a graveyard-based combo is beneficial, but when you lack a tutor card, searching for one with your draw sources becomes a valuable technique. With this, the slots for draw sources in the deck have been determined. Next, I would like to discuss the composition of the lands. I'd like to discuss how the selection of lands differs from the standard list. Due to the metagame, it's imperative to consider Chalice decks, which is why we're including a higher number of Boseiju, who endures. Incorporating just 1 copy doesn't guarantee drawing it when needed, so we have opted for 2 copies in the deck. If the environment changes and it becomes acceptable to reduce the guard against Chalice decks, feel free to decrease the number of such cards according to your preference. Simply replacing 1 slot of Boseiju, who endures with a basic forest, can give you an advantage against Delver decks. Please consider this approach in response to future changes in the metagame. With this, the deck list has been finalized. Finally, I'd like to introduce a little trick. ANT is classified as a fast combo deck, but in reality, its combo speed is on the slower side. When your hand is weak, there's a technique to mislead your opponent. I'll introduce 2 patterns of this strategy. Place an island on the first turn. Cast Ponder from the island. On the second turn, set an underground sea and go. This should make it appear to your opponent as if you're preparing for Orcish Bowmasters. Next, play a Misty Rainforest from Brainstorm and go. This should make it appear to your opponent as if you are playing a control deck. I'll introduce another pattern. Set a Volcanic Island. From Volcanic Island, cast Ponder and go. Next, play a Misty Rainforest from Brainstorm and go. This should make it look as if you are playing a Delver deck poised with Stifle. Now, I will explain some small tricks. Let's say you have 2 islands on the field and a hand consisting of Ponder, Brainstorm, and 2 copies of LED, Lion's Eye Diamond. I'll explain how to proceed to a combo from here. Cast Brainstorm from the island. Place Ad Nauseam on top of my library. Then, cast both copies of Lion's Eye Diamond, LED. Cast Ponder from the island and stack it on top. Activate both Lion's Eye Diamonds. Draw Ad Nauseam from the top of my library and add it to your hand, then cast it. It's a rare case nowadays, but I'll share a method to execute your combo even if your opponent has Vendilion Clique. Our hand consists of Lotus Petal, Lion's Eye Diamond, Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, and a tutor. Cast Lotus Petal. Cast Lion's Eye Diamond. Cast Dark Ritual. After casting Cabal Ritual, when attempting to cast a tutor, it gets put on the stack. You are hindered by Vendilion Clique, preventing the combo from executing. This time, cast Lotus Petal and Lion's Eye Diamond, then cast a tutor and put it on the stack. To achieve Hellbent, further cast Dark Ritual and put it on the stack. In that state, cast Cabal Ritual and proceed to resolve the spells. Now, after resolving the tutor, you can combo without passing priority. Next, I'll introduce a trick for achieving the threshold requirement of Cabal Ritual. Let's say your graveyard has 4 cards, and your hand consists of Dark Ritual, a tutor, Cabal Ritual, and 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds. Cast Dark Ritual. Then cast Cabal Ritual. Follow by casting both Lion's Eye Diamonds. If you proceed to cast the tutor, you won't achieve threshold, rendering Cabal Ritual less effective. This time, cast Dark Ritual, both Lion's Eye Diamonds, and the tutor, and put them on the stack. Next, cast Cabal Ritual and add it to the stack. In that state, activate both Lion's Eye Diamonds. Now that threshold is achieved, you can effectively use it. Finally, I'd like to conclude by discussing how to utilize Pero Dice Lost. It might just be me, but when I first saw this card, I had absolutely no idea how to use it. If you roll strong dice numbers, there are various ways to use it, but I'll introduce how to use it when the weakest result is rolled. Let's assume your hand consists of 2 Lotus Petals, a tutor, and 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds. Cast the 2 Lotus Petals, then the 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds, followed by the tutor. Search for Pero Dice Lost. Let's say you roll a 1 and 1, for a total of 2. It's worth noting that 0 mana cards can be infinitely retrieved from the graveyard. Retrieve all the cards you previously cast from the graveyard. After that, go all in and secure the victory. Thank you for watching up to this point. I hope to improve at MTG together with everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving it a thumbs up. See you in the next one. This has been Antya.